is Karlyn Holman. I live way up in the cold climate of northern Wisconsin. I've lived there. I still live in the town I was born in, but I won't tell you how many years ago. So today I'm here just to talk about a product that I've absolutely fallen in love with. I've been having so much fun working with it, and it's called the Elegant Writer. It was actually a product that was made for calligraphers, and it comes in 4, maybe more tips, but I know of 4 tips. And the only one I use is called the fine tip. And see, I just come in and draw in the shapes I'm interested in. Every now and then I'll come in and I'll do just maybe a little bit of shading to create a little bit of a darker passage. Oh, it's going to be fun. And these things, you can paint these things in a matter of minutes. So the first thing I'm going to talk about and explain is the Elegant Writer. And then what I like to do is combine materials, mixed media. I love to do collage. I love to do the Caran crayons. Now these are an incredibly high quality product from Switzerland, and they're little crayons, but they're more than just crayons. Believe me, this is pure color. And usually when people show me their crayons, they look like this, but this is what mine look like because I use them. I love these crayons. They are opaque and they're just for fun. First thing I'm going to do is show you how quickly you can get a painting out of this Elegant Writer. First of all, a lot of times I like to just throw a little water on here, just let it happen. And see these, I like to start with the background, and you can see how quickly these become activated. And I'm just going to let the color run and do its thing. And this is, I only use the black. They come in all kinds of colors. So maybe you'd want to try some of the other colors, but really I'm only interested in what happens with the black, because then I like to take over with some collage work and the crayons I just talked about. And so when you touch, as soon as you touch this, you can see how the color activates and you have these wonderful oozing colors. I always start with the background and then work my way to the front. So this will just take me a minute to fill this in. Okay, now the fun thing is I've got it all wet. And you'll see how it's kind of bleeding out into some greens and pinks. And if you want to, and I like to work on a board, you can let this board tip and let some of those colors run. Maybe even throw some more color in. And also if you want to, you can throw a little salt into this, and the salt will even work with these pens. I just think it's so cool. So you can see where we're going to get some lovely textures down here. Now, if you want to accent the pink, watch this. You just grab a tissue, and when you lift the color, it will go into the pink tones. You can also use a sprayer to get some of the colors to move. Now what we've done, we've established our background, and what we want to do is come in and start establishing some of the values. So I'm going to pretend my light is coming from one side. That means this whole side's going to be pretty much in shadow. And then what I'll do is paint each one of these dark to light, dark to light, dark to light, and so on. Isn't that easy? Now let's do another one. Basically this is all in shadow on one side. And then we're going to come in here and do the dark to light, dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. So it just takes minutes. But it's really important you save these whites. Really important. Here we go again. Same thing over again. Dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. And then over here, we'll lose the shadow on one side, and then we'll come in and do the dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. Too bad this isn't any fun. And then now I'm just going to work with some of the other shapes that are in here. These are, in fact, I have the photograph with me. Okay, this is the photograph I used to draw my design. And you can see how dark it is in the background. And then we have these wonderful light to dark colors. So I still want to come in and create a few more darks and then a few more dark to light. And one of the things about this incredible pen that I still can't get over, every time I use it, I can't get over this fact that once you activate this pen and let it dry, it becomes stable. Now there are other pens on the market, I won't name them, but there are other pens on the market that when you activate them, they do this, and then when you come back to wet them, they continue to activate and activate. And you can't paint them because it's black is bleeding into everything. With this pen, just blows my mind. When you are done with this, see, I never did anything to this but wet it with water. Look at this. My brush is soaking wet, and I can just go in and touch this, and it doesn't reactivate. What that means is I can come in and I can start painting in these beautiful red, yellow, orange skies, rocks. So this was, first of all black and white. Then I came in and painted it with all these luscious colors. And what's happened is it's turned into a fantasy for me. I am now painting just some wild stuff. And I'll show you, I've got a few with me. So now this would be the first step. And if some of the colors get a little bit too dark, you have to grab them really fast. But you can see that it will lift a little bit up. And now when this is completely dry, it'll be quite stable. But can you see how I left a few areas here that I never touched? Those are dangerous areas. When you come back to paint, it's possible that that will activate because it's never been touched with the pen. Like I have drawn some of these images to teach, for example, in Ireland. I drew them a month before I left. And when I got there, they still activated the same way, a month after I drew them. But you have a few edges you didn't touch. This is a little trick I figured out. This is a very fine mister. You can see it's got a very narrow stem inside. It's also got a picture of my husband of 49 years, my fond mister. And what I do is I hold my hand high and I simply let a little mist of this come down. And it doesn't change the picture. See, you can't see any visible changes. But what it's doing is it's setting those few lines that I didn't actually touch. What a deal. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about the first time I used this pen. This I actually drew and wet this maybe about 4 years ago. And back then the pens had a different composition. They bled out into kind of a pink and blue. And I'm a graphic artist by nature. I've studied it. I've done a lot of work with, printing presses and wood cutting, and I love black and white. So this excites me. Here you can see where I sprayed into it, and you can see some of the salt I added. And after I did all black and white, I went, what would happen if I came in and instead of adding just water, if I added color? So I took the same subject, and instead of adding water, I added colors, like some of the quin golds and some quinacridone burnt orange, kind of a burnt sienna, and that's it. And it activated the color, so it did, the darks blended with the color, and I could paint a picture a la Prima style using color. I was thrilled. So I'm going to wet another picture for you and show you some more techniques that have to do with just working with getting the water and all these different things activated. So I'm working with a fairly good size number 16 brush here. And then I also want to activate my sky first. Remember I said it's really important to do the background first. So if I can come in here and just start the background. And I've got so much stuff drawn in here. See, I'm just going to come in and let this background get wet. It's going to give me just a little bit of color. I love that. And this is a cool technique. I can't wait to show you. Right in here, I just take my brush and do this. Just spatter it. And it makes it into little, almost like foliage. Isn't that cool? Absolutely love this. In fact, I do more throwing of the paint than anything else. So now I'm going to try to get my sky in between some of this. You can see there's an awful lot of color. So I'm going to lift a little bit of this color out. I love it when you lift it out, you get the pinks. We'll throw just a little bit more down here. And over on the other side. And it's really important to do this background so that you can get your values straightened out. See, how dark I make this tree depends on how dark the background is. So it really is important to come in and do this background first. But I still want to save as many lights as I can. So I'm just going to lift up a little of this color. That seems to be getting away from me. Then we'll come over here and get a little background going here. Again, I'm going to lift away a little bit of that just because it's so dark. These pens really have a lot of ink in them. They're wonderful. And they're kind of fun. After you've used them and used them, the colors lighten up. So again, I'm just going to throw the paint to activate those trees. But be sure to save whites. Save some whites. Don't get too... It would be so easy to lose all the whites. And that would be a tragedy. So you have to, because this really wants to activate, even more than I am. Boy, this, you saw me open up the pen, so it was so new. That's what happens. It's okay though. Okay, now I'm going to come in and do the final activating here. And see, you can just make this go fast. That's what we do. We just overlay, you know. So now comes the fun part. Wow. Rocks, you need to start at the bottom of the rock and let that color bleed up, just like this. And then you need to have a tissue or something to take off that extra water and just come in and lose that edge. And save the top of that rock as white. Start at the top, work your way down. Now I'm going to go, same thing, I'm only going to wet the top of the rocks. And I'm going to save that white, either lifting it away or just losing the edge. Here we're going to go dark in here, but save the lights. And as I move along here, I'm going to do them all the same. Put the color on the bottom, put the color only on the bottom, then come back and just lose that edge, but keep white, 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 really important. And then when I paint these guys, same thing. I'm going to think about the sun coming in. I'm only going to put a little bit of shadow and texture on one side, and I'm going to leave the other side light. See, this really is fun. Just sort of a formula, but it works. So I'm just going to keep going here. can just see this on fast forward here. My fastest brush in the east. Now, as soon as I get these all painted, my next death-defying act is going to be to do the water. Oh, I've been just dying to do this water. It's the best part. Now, in landscape, everything's got a horizontal thrust to it. So the water would always have lines that are going horizontally. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw the water to form horizontal lines. Just throw it like this and form these horizontal lines. So there's a lot of water just laying now on here. Of course, I'm going to come in and activate along the edge of the top of these rocks. Over here along the top of this rock. Then I'm just going to throw some more water, connect it to that shape. And we basically want to pick up this lovely horizontal movement in the water. A little darker under those rocks, a little darker around the top of those rocks. Pick up that horizontal movement. And the thing is, the whites are so important. See, those lovely whites are really, really important. We're almost done. See what I mean about how fast this happens? Here we go again. My nice little number 16 brush just throws that water so nice. We'll just kind of work it back and forth like this. A little darker underneath each rock. A little darker here, a little darker here, a little darker here. And then we'll just pick up again that beautiful horizontal movement. So what we really have done, what I love about this pen, is we have established all values. And now we can just have fun. When this dries, we can just have fun with whatever color we want. It's really almost too good to be true. So that's basically it. I probably would put a little bit of salt in here just to get, because water looks great with some little white shapes created by the salt. And then we could lift out some colors if we wanted to. Let's say it was a little lighter there. Doesn't lift real good, but if you catch it soon enough, it does. Sometimes I'll even tip it and do a little spray. But I'm actually pretty happy with that whole arrangement. That was fun. Now remember, there are some areas in here where I haven't really touched the line. I've been working quickly and working kind of crazy. So remember, I take my fine mister, I hold it high, and I just do a little gentle, with my hand moving, swooping across. I do just a little gentle mist like this. And that touches all those lines that weren't touched. And then you can be assured that when you come back later to paint this, if you choose to, I think they actually look kind of nice without it. But if you decide to come back and paint it, it should be very stable when you come back. Well, one of the things I love about this pen is it's so versatile and it's so spontaneous. I take it with me when I travel to Europe. I teach a lot of on-location painting techniques. And this is one of the things that's really fun. Like this is my granddaughter, and we were just riding on the ferry. It's about a 20-minute ride. Well, you got to do something. So I just decided to sketch her with this pen, and when I got home, I wet it. And see, I love the black and white, well, almost black and white, so much that I just left it. I think it's kind of cool. And of course, another subject that is fantastic are roots in like the side of the hill. trees. So I happened to be in South Africa at the time. We were there to paint this beautiful water scene, and my eyes just gravitated over to these beautiful roots, which I had to draw and later wet. And again, I just love the colors. Now the extra pink that you see happens when you spray into it and touch it with a tissue. So that's kind of a nice little surprise. And this is what happens when your pen starts to run out a little bit. I like it somewhat dry, and I kind of mark the pens so I know that they're not going to be as juicy as the one you saw me work with. And it gives you just a little more control. Now I live up by Lake Superior. This is another one of those rock and trees and roots in the reflections. So now this is ready to have the color added to it. Here's another really cool picture. This is done with the earlier pen that bled out in kind of a pink tone, pink and blue. The new ones bleed out in more of a green and pink. So I brought this photograph of this tree with the roots, and see, when I developed it, I wanted it to have this path of dark coming down. And as I just gave all the instructions I could think of to those lovely Irish ladies, pretty soon they were putting in leprechauns and little fairies. They loved this subject. I mean, they're still talking about it. If you can imagine this just full of little leprechauns and fairies. Oh, it was so fun. This is a convent I go to in France, and the light was so perfect that day. It was coming in through the courtyard, casting these wonderful shadows. And again, this just took minutes to paint. I started with the background. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to start with the background. As artists, a lot of times we want to start with everything happening right in the foreground. You can't do that. You have to establish the values by going into the background, working your way to the foreground. You can see I never even painted that. I did a few bricks, and I kind of framed the whole thing in with these beautiful lights. So try to save as much of the light of the paper as you can. On this one, I was on a cruise boat with my husband and some of my grandkids and my daughter, and I had lots of time to play. So I was up on the 14th floor bar having a little fun. Of course, I had my elegant writer along, and I was drawing. And all of a sudden I went, what if you combine abstract with real? So this was kind of the start of a whole series of paintings for me, where I combined the abstraction with the realistic images, in this case of trees, and I had so much fun with that. I hope it goes well for you.